In the grim dark future of the 41st millennium, the term heresy is thrown around like it's going out of fashion. But what exactly does it mean to be heretical in the Imperium of Man? And who decides that anyway? This is where the Ordos of the Holy God Emperor's Inquisition steps into the picture. An organisation born from the ashes of the Horus Heresy, the Inquisition acts as an overzealous safeguarding measure against chaos and any other threats to the soul of humanity. Whilst the exact origins of the Inquisition are a hotly debated lost piece of lore, it's accepted that the organisation was created by Malekar the Sigillite in the tail end of Horus's uprising. The Emperor's right-hand man was tasked with finding individuals of an inquisitive nature, those who would help to rout out any future evils that would put themselves against mankind. He brought together 8 Space Marines and 4 human lords. The former of these would go on to form the beginnings of the Grey Knights, a secret Space Marine chapter dedicated to hunting down and fighting the forces of chaos. The 4 mortal lords, however, did not become Grey Knights, instead becoming the first of many to become Inquisitors. These were not how they are known now, and operated within the shadows, pulling on the strings they found to see where they unravelled. Their history is lost, but it is known that they began unified, the divisions of the different Ordo chambers of the Inquisition coming later on. They were a dedicated force to fight chaos, and they acted above the law and without any real oversight to ensure that this work was done. They worked alongside their Space Marine counterparts, the Grey Knights becoming the first chamber militant of the Inquisition, eventually coming under the purview of the Ordo Malleus, the Demon Hunters. Eventually, in the 32nd millennium, the need for a new dedicated branch of the Inquisition grew from the devastation caused by the Beast. An Orc war boss of immense proportions, the Beast led an Orc war so large as to make Horus's victory at Ullanor seem minor by comparison. Ironic really, for it was the shame that the Orcs felt from that grand defeat that had prompted the rise of this beast. Over 10 foot tall, the Prime Orc was a force to be reckoned with, and burned the Imperium as its horde grew and pillaged. It took the sacrifice of almost all the Imperial fists, along with the support from Sisters of Silence, to finally take down the beast and end this war. But it was a lengthy and bloody process, and the galaxy burned in its wake. In the aftermath of this unprecedented threat, and seeing the effects that so many lost Primarchs and lost legions had on humanity's ability to defend itself, the Inquisition created a new branch, the Ordo Xenos. The third of the most famous Ordos, the Ordo Hereticus, would be born from a similar disaster. The Age of Apostasy, a dark time in the history of the Imperium, was a second civil war. The Imperium was once again torn apart from within as the forces of the Church, the Adeptus Ministorum, strived to wrestle control of humanity away from the offices of bureaucracy, the Administratum. The head of the Church at the time, High Lord Goj van Dyer, had taken office of the Master of the Administratum and began to make some rapid changes. He ruled over the Imperium with an iron fist, sending out death squads to any who would oppose him and his demands of more and more temples and statues to be raised across the galaxy in his and the Emperor's name. We'll cover the Reign of Blood in its own video soon, but it's fair enough to say that until his removal and assassination by his own bodyguards, the Imperium was a dark place indeed. After all this, the Church was reformed, moving away from a desire for power and rather to spiritual guidance, and the Inquisition stepped in to set up measures to ensure that the Church's new mandates were followed correctly. Whether to root out non-believers or those who would abuse the God Emperor's name for their own gain, the Ordo Hereticus was here to deal with them. As with the Ordo Malleus, the other 2 major Ordos have their own equally famous chamber militants. For the Ordo Xenos, The Space Marines of the Death Watch stand guard to deal with any alien threats that should avail humanity. For the Hereticus, the Brides of Slaughter, Van Dyer's old bodyguards and kill squads, were rebranded and used as the Adepta Sororitas. A fully female fighting force, it's often joked in the 40k that it's the ultimate loophole to the church's organisations no longer being allowed to have a standing army of men at arms. The Sisters of Battle are no joke, however, capable of channeling the Emperor's psychic might through their faith in him alone, with some of their numbers being known to even defy death, for their service to the God Emperor was not yet finished. The three main Ordos, Hereticus to watch for the enemy within, Xenos to hunt the enemy without, and Malleus to guard against the enemy beyond. Whilst these three are the ones we hear so much about, and who get rules on our tabletops, the Imperium of Man is a large enough dumpster fire that there is a tangle of minor Ordos, Inquisitors fighting amongst themselves about almost anything you could think of. Two of my favourites are the Ordo Originatus and the Ordo Redactus. These two branches of the Inquisition, in my opinion at least, summarise the state of the Grand Imperium of Man perfectly. As we've already discussed, the origins of the Inquisition are lost to time, their history forgotten and often just a matter of hearsay. To rectify this, the inventively named Ordo Originatus seeks out any remnant of these times, attempting to piece together how the Inquisition came to be, its founding members, and their original goal, set to them by the God Emperor when he still walked amongst mankind. The Ordo Redactus seeks out this knowledge too, performing their sacred duty of keeping the inner workings of the Inquisition a secret. Should the enemies of mankind learn the secrets of the Inquisition, they would surely be undone, and so, the Ordo Redactus strives to hide, destroy, or otherwise erase the histories of the Inquisition. You heard me right. Even within the Inquisition, there are branches that conflict like this in a complete polar opposites, and this is just one of many examples. Another fun Ordo that holds a place in my heart, just for being something that I would have never thought about on my own, is the Ordo Chronos. This branch of the Inquisition are the calendar police, arguing with one another about the precise date of the current day 40k. Sure, they also study and investigate the shifts and potentials of time travel via the warp, but at current they are in the midst of an issue known as the Chrono Strife. When Primarch Rabute Gulliman returned to life and attempted to take stock of the Imperium that he had found, he discovered that by comparing reports and data logged, the date could range anywhere from the 41st to the 42nd millennium. With that conservative gap of over 1,000 years, the Ordo began to fight amongst themselves over the correct interpretation of the date, their Ordo being unable to come to a conclusion and leaving the issue like an open wound for the time being. If there is a branch of military, a sector of business, or a trade to be plied, there's probably an Order of the Inquisition to watch over it from the shadows. Even the Adeptus Mechanicus is not above inquisitorial scrutiny, the Ordo Machinus watching over their works. They take particular interest in the smooth and proper integration of newly discovered standard template construct fragments into Imperial systems, as well as what the Mechanicum does with the Xenos tech that it recovers. To the Inquisition, there is no one who is above them, save for the God Emperor, and all are within its reach and mandate. That's not to say, of course, there haven't been occasions where they've been forced to back down, or at the very least been defied. While some do it secretly or under the table, there is a famous example of the Space Wolf's defense of Armageddon. Known as the Months of Shame, this is the time where the Space Wolves would stand in defiance of the Inquisition's purge of the world, and is counted as a stain on Imperial history. The world of Armageddon was faced with large-scale chaotic incursion led by the demon Primarch Angron himself. With the aid of the Grey Knights, the Space Wolves fought for the planet, and long story short, the forces of chaos were pushed back. The world of Armageddon would survive to face many more conflicts of these epic proportions, but they wouldn't have if the Inquisition had had their way. The Ordo Malleus and the Grey Knights believed that the threat of allowing those who had seen and fought against chaos to live was just too great, the potential for chaotic infection too high. As such, they deemed the planet a write-off and sanctioned Exterminatus, the destruction of the world. The Space Wolves, much more numerous than their inquisitorial counterparts, were less than pleased by this outcome. They had just fought and died to save this world and its people, and through months of conflict, they managed to halt this plan. They displeased the Inquisition, and they would see little support from the Ordos in the future, but they had openly defied successfully the Ordo Malleus. This is just one of a handful of extreme circumstances, however, and for each clash such as this, there are millions of acts of heresy that feel the quick and ruthless judgment of the Inquisition upon them. Inquisitors themselves, agents of the Imperium, carry with them great war gear, requisitioning whatever they need to perform their duties. They are even permitted to carry with them Xenos weaponries on some occasions, the more radical amongst them arguing that they need to fight fire with fire. This is allowed for the most part, but it's a dangerous line to walk, with the wrong step potentially pushing the Inquisitor over the line into the path of darkness. Whilst the Ordos would never let you know it, it's not unheard of for Inquisitors to fall to the dark powers that they fight, their exposure to evils pulling on their souls. Typically, they either die heroes of the Imperium, or live long enough to become the evil they once faced, blind to the monsters that they have become. An absolutely great series of books to read if you're interested in what the lives and duties of an Inquisitor are like, are the Eisenhorn trilogy. I won't spoil anything, but they're well worth a read, even if just to learn a bit more about the feel of the 40k universe. With numerous Ordos and countless agents, the Inquisition fights its secret wars across the Imperium. Bound by duty and oath, they seek out heresy and destroy threats to mankind, from within, without, and beyond. If you've enjoyed the video and you want to see more stuff like this, don't forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comments what you'd like to see us cover in the future, and as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.